So we're first going to learn how to calculate the molar mass. We're going to need to know how to calculate this to figure out some of our problems. This is just going to be one step in figuring out these problems. But we're just going to do a little video, and a short part of your worksheet is going to be on just calculating out this molar mass so we feel really comfortable with it. So we've actually worked with molar mass before, we just didn't know we were working with it. So before we were talking about the AMU, the unit we use in chemistry, when we use the unit AMU, we were actually talking about how many moles per gram, that's grams per mole an element had. So we were using this molar mass when we were talking about that. We were talking about how many grams per mole it had. On our periodic table, when we looked at these periodic table blocks, the number down here was telling us the number, the AMU, or the number of grams per mole. So, for example, on your test or your assignments, it might ask you for 1 mole of nitrogen and ask you how much it weighs. And so for 1 mole of nitrogen, you can look at your periodic table and you just look at the number down here. And you can see 1 mole of nitrogen is going to be 14.01 grams. Alright, we'll round to the hundredths place for these ones. So this is a pretty easy one where if I just give you the element, you can look at your periodic table to find the grams. The next part is a little bit harder. So I could also give you problems on your homework that look like this, like if I ask you for 1 mole of H2O and ask you how much it weighs. Alright, so maybe pause the video and look at your periodic table and try to see if you can figure out the weight of 1 mole of H2O. I'm going to keep working. So for this, I like to split it into 2 different parts. I like to just look at my hydrogens and just look at my oxygens, see how much they weigh, and then add them together. So I know hydrogen weighs 1.01. In my problem, I can see that I have the 2 there, so that means I need to remember to times this by 2 because I have 2 hydrogens. So I'll have 2.02, and then oxygen weighs 16 grams. And that one, we just have 1 oxygen, so I don't need to times it by anything. So now to figure out the total number of, or the total mass of hydrogen dioxide, we would do this 2.02 and the 16, we'd add them together for 18.02 grams. Alright, so that's one that's a little more complicated. Let's do one more that's more complicated, and then I think you guys will be good to do your homework. So let's look at the mass of 1 mole of Be, and then we're going to do NO3, but there's going to be 2 of them. Alright, like I said, this one's a little bit more complicated. So again, pause the video and see if you can start setting this up. I'm going to keep working. So I'm going to figure out my Be, how much it weighs, my N, and my O. Alright, so Be, if you look at your periodic table, it weighs 9.01 grams. Your nitrogen, if you look at your periodic table, will be 14.01 grams, and your oxygen will be 16. Now we have to see if they're going to be multiplied by anything. Be doesn't have any number by it, so it's just a 1, so we don't have to multiply that by anything. Now this nitrogen, well, it doesn't have a number right by it. The 2 on the outside here is saying that we're going to have 2 of NO3s. So we're going to have 2 of these. So what that means is we need to times this to into N and into the number for O. So N just has a 1, so we do 2 times 1 to get 2 nitrogens total. So nitrogen's going to have to be times by 2. And when we do that math, you can always use a calculator for these sections. You're going to get 28.02. And now think in your head what you think number we'd be timesing O by. So we have 2, and we have that 3, so it's going to be 2 times 3, so it's going to be 6. So we're going to have 16 times 6, so we'll get a total of 96 grams for the oxygen. So now to figure out our total grams, we're going to add all these up, and we should get 133.03 as your total grams for 1 mole of BeNO32. Alright, so that's that. This will be just the first. I think there's 6 problems on your homework that are like this where you just need to figure out the molar mass for different elements or compounds. If this is confusing, shoot me an email and I can try to make a clearer video for you. Good luck, and make sure to watch the rest of the videos for information for the rest of your homework.